What's up, Debt Free Mafia? Hey, here are the reasons why you are broke. These are some things I want you to be thinking about. Hey, what can you do to change? What things could we adjust here? What mindsets could we kind of start to kind of have going forward to change that? If you don't know, my name's Rick. I am a financial coach, so I deal with people who have issues with money right now more than anything. It's what I do. Also the owner of the Debt Free Mafia, so I'm just so glad that you're here. Hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully it's encouraging. I am going to rag on people for just a little bit, but I want you to know that I am rooting for you. And I do want to see you do really good, awesome stuff with your, your money going forward. So let's talk about that. So number one, and I see this all the time, I have people who come in and they don't know where their money goes. They just don't have any idea. They have a paycheck coming in, and shortly before they get paid next, they're checking their account to see if they can buy the next thing. Should I buy this, or do I have enough money in the account? Their budget is based off of budget, in quotations, is based off of how much money do we have in our checking account. Well, that's not a good way to do it. It's stressful, right? I don't know if you've lived paycheck to paycheck, but if you have, it's not fun. It's not a way to build wealth. It's not a way to provide wealth for your family, and it's stressful for you. It's stressful. Let's face the facts there. So number two, let's talk about this. They don't have a budget. Broke people don't have a budget. We just talked about that, right? So we need to know where every single dollar that you are making and where it's going, right? So your income is your number one wealth building tool, and if you are not commanding where every single dollar is going, you will stay broke, and you will work until you die, because you can't afford retirement without something to be able to set aside for investment. You can't start investing if you don't have cash flow to invest, right? So we need to have that mindset of, hey, what do we need to do now to take care of the future, right? So, okay, this is another one. This is spending too much money on things you don't need. If you have debt, you do not need to be excessively spending on anything. You don't need to be excessively spending on anything. You need to be living a minimalist lifestyle, going as bare minimum as possible. Reason being is not because I want you to be miserable. Reason being is because I want you to get out of debt as fast as possible so we can get that over with, so that you can just start focusing on your life, your dreams, your goals, your future, right? So that's what I want you focusing on. So when I have a client, we get real intense about, hey, where do we need to cut so that we have extra money to one of two things: either save up an emergency fund or pay off debt, right? That's usually what we focus on first and foremost. So it's really important that we have a budget, because I recommend zero-based budget. If you don't know what that means, a lot of people just go off of a budget. I want you to go one step further. I want you to use a zero-based budget. I have a video on what a zero-based budget is and why it's the best. Essentially what it is it says every dollar that's coming in is going somewhere. A budget might say, hey, we budgeted this, and this, and this. And then, so they're all budgeted for. But you don't have anything budgeted for the extra money you have or the deficit that you have. So I think that's kind of a big deal, right? So if you have excess in a zero-based budget, what you do is you say, okay, well, let's say you did a budget. You have an extra $175 left over in your budget that doesn't have anywhere to go. That's going to go, like I said earlier, one of two places. It's either going to go towards funding an emergency fund, or it's going to go towards paying off your lowest debt using the debt snowball. Got videos on debt snowball if you want to check it out. But that's what we're going to do with our money. Next thing, this is going to be finding your self-worth in items and materialistic things. There's a real big epidemic going on right now. We're the most, and I say this a lot, but we're the most advertised to generation of all time. Most advertised to generation ever, right? I'm not just talking Facebook ads, Instagram ads, billboards, bumper stickers. I can go on and on. YouTube ads, television ads, right? I'm not just talking about that. And we're going to talk about this one here in a little bit, but you're also getting advertised to by your friends and family who are living a better life on social media, right? So nobody puts the bad stuff on social media. They just put, hey, here's the awesome vacation that we went on that you can't afford. Here's the new car that we bought that you can't afford. Here's the school that we were able to send our kid to that you can't afford, right? It goes on and on and on, and that creates this lack of satisfaction in our life. What we're doing is we're comparing ourselves to the Joneses, and that's another point I'm going to bring up. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up because they just work so well together, and that's trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? We find our self-worth in the things that we're able to do with our money, and the security that it brings us, and the status it brings us, right? It's another big fail, right? So if you look at lots of millionaires, I think I shared this not too long ago on social media, but the average vehicles of what millionaires drove, and the number one vehicle brand that millionaires drove was Toyota, not Lexus, not Mercedes, not Bentley, not Lamborghini, not Land Rover, Range Rover, expensive Rover, whatever it is, right? They live frugally, right? They live on less than they make. And that's our next point, living on less than we make, right? There's so many people that I know that we do the budget together, and then at the end of the budget meeting, I don't ever show them the bottom line after the first budget meeting, but after the second one's when we look at the bottom line, and man, when that number's red, aka they don't have enough money to cover everything, it's a big wake up to reality. And that's usually why you're feeling stressed, is because you don't have enough money to cover everything. We're spending too much on some stuff. Another reason, this is something that I really harp on, and I don't know if you guys have seen the Minimalist documentary. I am a fan of it. Doesn't mean I'm saying go out and be an extreme minimalist. Unless that's for you, then go for it. But minimalists, they have this mindset that's a little bit different. It's quality over quantity, right? Big advocate for that. That's why the merch that I'm starting to build here, or the merchandise that I'm starting to do here at the Debt Free Mafia, if you purchase a shirt from me, it'll be similar to this one, right? Really cool. If you purchase a shirt from me, I want it to be a quality shirt that's going to last you a long time and look good for a long time and do you a good service, right? I want you to have a long-lasting t-shirt, not a bunch of t-shirts, but good t-shirts that you'd want to wear lots of times over again and are quality, comfortable, all that fun stuff. This t-shirt I'm wearing, the reason why you can't get this exact t-shirt is because I thought it was too cheap. So the new blanks that I'm buying, that I'm making these shirts with, are much better quality. So, and because I'm a believer, I just wanted to know what this shirt was like, if it was quality or not when I bought it. It's not. I still wear it because it's kind of my around the house kind of shirt. But anyways, next one. This is a big one, right? This is not having long-term goals. I have so many clients that don't have long-term goals. And a lot of goals that when clients come to me, their biggest goals are, I want to pay off debt. I want to get on budget. Great goals, but I would argue that those are short-term goals. I like you to, if you haven't sat down and said, hey, let's dream a little bit. What does it look like? What's the dream house look like? What's the dream vacation look like? What's the dream career that you have that you don't have time or money to invest into yet? What freedoms are you being starved of because you have so many debt payments or or a budget or anything like that that's keeping you from being able to achieve those long-term goals? That's why whenever I meet with a client, I really spend a big chunk of one of our first meetings usually digging and trying to find out what the big goals are, because it's hard to start a journey if you don't have a destination. It's just hard to do. So that's a big one. Know what your long-term goals are. Number 7, this is gonna, or sorry, not number 7. I've not been keeping count, but I have a list here that I'm kind of been going off of. But that's not investing your extra money. It is so important that you're investing, right? Here at the Debt Free Mafia, we have a set order of what you should be doing and in what order. We call them the baby steps. Investing doesn't come until after we've saved up our big emergency fund and paid off all of our debt. The reason being is because we want all those negative interest rates and all of that baggage gone so that we can just launch pad going forward. The younger you are to be able to get rid of debt and start investing, the better, because compound interest is your friend. If you do it the right way early on, you can really save yourself years of having to work at a job maybe that you don't like, and you also can leave a legacy not only to yourself but to your children and their children's children, right? So focusing on investing. That's not going on Robinhood and buying a few stocks. Even if that's something you do, that's okay. But what I'd like for you to do is have an actual strategy in place that earns you at least 12% interest on return. So that's something. Another one, this is being irresponsible with debt, right? So this is pretty obvious, but the average millennial has around $17,000 in credit card debt, which is completely unreasonable and irresponsible. There's always the argument of, oh, well, if you use credit cards correctly and pay them off and take advantage of the points and the miles and the cash back and all that fun stuff, you're doing great. Yeah. However, the majority of people don't do that. They don't. And they have a hard time coming to reality that they struggle to do that. And I'm not sitting here, again, bragging on all you guys, because I know that chances are, statistically, you watching this have credit card debt and struggle with it. That's just the stats. And that's why usually most of the time with most clients, they'll say, hey, we got to get rid of the credit cards. We just do, because you wouldn't take an alcoholic to the bar. You wouldn't, right? Because it's tempting, right? And so same thing if you have spending habit problems with credit cards, which are very common. Not trying to isolate you, but you don't want to have that anymore. Cut them up, close the accounts, let's get rid of them. We'll focus on building credit other ways later on after we get your debt paid off. So that's a big one. Next one, let's talk about this. Discussion. So if you're married, this is a big one. A lot of people grew up in a household where there wasn't a ton of money, and monies were a point of conflict, right? So usually whenever you grow up around something that's a point of conflict, you don't like to talk about it, right? Because it makes you uncomfortable. You don't want to be a part of it, any of that stuff. But this is so important, right? So typically, I think it's like 80% of divorcees pointed back to money issues as one of the biggest reasons that they got divorced, right? So if you're married, make it a point to talk about money. I know it's uncomfortable. Be very clear about who does what with money, right? So, and we've talked about this a lot, but there's typically somebody who's a free spender, and then there's somebody who's like a nerd budget. It doesn't mean that you're extreme on either. Sometimes you guys might both be free spenders, but one's going to be closer to the nerd, aka the person that likes to sit down with the spreadsheet and look at the numbers, and then there's the free spirit who's just like, yeah, money, have fun. They're both important, believe it or not. A lot of people think that you're supposed to rag on the free spirit, but the free spirit keeps the family having fun and makes it not so much like a giant corporate budget where they're just trying to starve everybody, right? So that's okay. You need both of you, and both of you need to be talking about wants, needs, desires, and understanding who is who and what in the relationship, so that whenever you do make your budget, both of you are inputting on the budget, right? So it's really easy for people who are free spirits to just get run over in the budget because the nerd is wanting to do everything and be controlling. However, the free spirit has to make changes on the budget. That's a rule I have with my clients. So talk about money. I know it's hard, and I know that there's probably some scars there, but you don't want scars for your family going forward or your generations going forward with money. Money should not be a point of conflict, but it is. And it's mostly because we really struggle and didn't do a good job planning. So it's hard to plan if you don't communicate. So that's a really big one. I think lastly, this is probably one of the biggest ones, and that's living it out, being disciplined with money. A lot of people will sign up for, hey, I'm going to do this budget, I'm going to get everything done, I'm going to pay off these debts, and then 2 months, 3 months in, they don't do it. Right? They give up. It's kind of like, the gym membership that you're still paying for from 2 years ago that you took advantage of for like a month, right? Definitely not guilty of that right here. But yeah, and I think that's living it. Living it is just so important, right? And I think one of the biggest things you can do to help with that is accountability. I think it's very important to be accountable with your spouse. I think you should tell a few other people in your life that you're making that change so that they are aware of it and asking you about it. Make sure it's people you trust and aren't going to be like, oh, so-and-so's having money problems. That's not going to do anybody any good, right? So I want it to be somebody you trust, somebody who you value their opinion. Just be like, hey, will you ask me how I'm doing with my budget and finances every now and then, because I want somebody to keep me accountable. If they love you, they're going to say yes, right? So that's a big one. And another way you can do that too is if you haven't hired a financial coach, I recommend finding a financial coach and hiring a financial coach, because you're going to be paying them. And a big part of what they do is keep you accountable, right? So you don't want to waste your money for the long term. You want to make sure that you're maximizing your potential with that financial coach, and the big part of that is accountability. So anyways, guys, these are some of the biggest areas where I see people struggle and stay broke with money, right? So I encourage you, if there's an area there that you kind of struggle with, let me know in the comments where you've struggled. For me, even though I'm the financial coach in my marriage, I'm the free spirit, and I love giving gifts. And I always blow my gift budget, and I have such a hard time staying under. That's one area where I was always really guilty, and the budget was just blowing the gift budget out of the water. I've always been guilty of that, because one of my love languages is gift giving, and that's a point where my wife and I have had to adjust, right? Because I struggle there. But let me know, is there an area that you've struggled with? What do you agree, disagree? Is there anything else that I'm leaving out? I'd love to know in the comments below. If this is something you enjoy and you like debt-free content and you enjoy the debt-free vibe, go ahead and hit subscribe. Also, if you don't mind hitting the like button, it helps me because I want to help more people, and the more likes I get, the more this gets boosted to people that might need it. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for stopping by. Again, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.